I was reviewing zoning permits when my phone buzzed against my mahogany desk. It was my father, Richard, texting about his 65th birthday dinner tonight. I expected a question about the guest list. Instead, I read the words that froze my blood. Do not bring me a fatherless child is a social liability I cannot afford. He called my 4-year-old daughter baggage. I didn't drop the phone. I didn't cry. I just felt a cold, sharp clarity snap into place. Before I tell you who was sitting at my table that night and why my father turned pale when he saw us drop a comment, what is the most heartless thing a family member has ever said to you? The air outside was biting, the kind of cold that snaps against your skin and wakes you up. I walked down the driveway, my heels clicking a steady rhythm on the frozen pavement. I did not look back at the house. I did not look at the warm glow of the windows where my family was undoubtedly toasting to their own righteousness, relieved to finally be rid of the daughter who never quite fit their aesthetic. They probably thought I was crying in my car. They probably imagined me driving away in a blur of tears, heartbroken and defeated. They were wrong. I wasn't heartbroken. I was calibrated. I slid into the driver's seat of my sedan and locked the doors. The silence inside the car was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was the silence of a courtroom before the gavel falls. I didn't start the engine. Instead, I reached into the passenger seat and opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the darkness, illuminating my face. My hands were steady as I connected to the hotspot. It was 12 minutes past 8 in the evening. By 12:30, their lives would be fundamentally different. I opened the banking portal first. For 3 years, I had been the silent architect of my father's lifestyle. When his construction firm went under, I stepped in. I didn't make a scene about it. I just set up an auto draft. Every month on the 25th, $3,200 left my account and went directly to his mortgage lender. He never thanked me. He never acknowledged it. He simply absorbed the money as if it were his birthright, a tax I owed him for existing. I stared at the scheduled transfers tab. The next payment was queued to go out in 2 days. I moved the cursor. The screen blinked. Recurring payment. Deleted. Just like that, the safety net was gone. He didn't know it yet, but he was currently eating prime rib in a house that was technically already in default without my contribution. Next, I opened the administration portal for the Grant Family Trust. This was the part my father always overlooked. He was the beneficiary, yes, but because of his history of bad investments, the bank required an independent administrator. He had signed the power over to me 5 years ago because he was too lazy to handle the paperwork. He thought I was his secretary. He forgot I was his auditor. I scanned the recent activity. There was a pending withdrawal request scheduled for January 2nd. $50,000. The memo line read business development, which was Richard Grant code for gambling debts and a new luxury sedan. I didn't decline it. That would be too simple. I flagged it. Reason suspicious. Activity/potential fraud. I clicked freeze assets. A red banner appeared across the top of the screen. Account locked pending investigation. The only person who could unlock it was the administrator, and the administrator had just been downed. Finally, I thought about the desk. When my mother died, the reading of the will had been a spectacle of greed. My sister Tiffany got the jewelry. My father got the liquid assets in the property. I got the antique writing desk in the study. They laughed. When the lawyer read it out, they called it junk wood. They didn't know that my mother And I shared a secret. That desk had a false bottom in the center drawer. Inside was not junk. Inside was the ledger. For a decade, my mother had tracked every dollar Richard stole from her inheritance, every forged signature, every illegal transfer he made to cover his tracks. She was too afraid to leave him, but she was smart enough to build a weapon for the person who would eventually have to fight him. She left me the gun. Tonight, I decided to pull the trigger. I closed the laptop. The blue light vanished, plunging me back into the dark. I started the engine. As I backed out of the driveway, I glanced one last time at the house in the rearview mirror. It looked grand and imposing, a fortress of wealth. But from where I sat, I could see the cracks in the foundation. I shifted the car into drive and pulled onto the main road. The temperature gauge read 22 degrees, but for the first time in my life, the cold didn't bother me. The road ahead was empty, a ribbon of asphalt stretching into the darkness. I drove on autopilot, my mind drifting back to the house, to the table, to the faces of the people I had spent my entire life trying to please. Why had I stayed so long? Why had I endured the insults, the dismissals, the constant feeling of being less than? I thought about the circus elephants I had read about as a child. They are tied to a small stake with a thin rope when they are young. They pull and struggle, but they aren't strong enough to break free. Eventually, they stop trying. As they grow massive and powerful, they could easily snap the rope or pull the stake from the ground with a single tug. But they don't. They stay tethered because they believe they are still weak. They are held captive not by the rope, but by the memory of the rope. For 29 years, I had been that elephant. I had been conditioned to believe that my worth was tied to my utility. I was valuable only when I was solving a problem, paying a bill, or fixing a mistake I didn't make. My sister Tiffany was the artist, the free spirit who couldn't be burdened with responsibilities. My father was the visionary, the man whose grand ideas always needed funding but never quite paid off. And I was the checkbook daughter, the one with the steady job, the savings account, the reliable credit score. I remembered the time Tiffany wrecked her car 3 days before her 21st birthday. My father had called me, frantic, not to ask if she was okay, but to ask if I could cover the insurance deductible because things were tight. I paid it. I didn't even ask for repayment. I just wanted to be the hero. I wanted him to look at me with the same pride he looked at her, but he never did. The rope held. I remembered the time my father borrowed $10,000 from my retirement fund to invest in a friend's startup. He promised to pay me back with interest in 6 months. That was 4 years ago. When I asked about it last Thanksgiving, he laughed and told me I was being petty about family money. The rope tightened. Tonight, at that dinner table, the rope finally snapped. It wasn't the down-owning that did it. It was the silence. The absolute suffocating silence when I announced the most important news of my life. In that moment, I saw the truth. They didn't love me. They loved what I provided. They loved the safety net I offered them. And the moment I became inconvenient, the moment I had a need of my own, a life of my own, I was discarded. I glanced at the passenger seat where my purse sat. Inside was the ultrasound picture I had planned to show them. A tiny, grainy image of a new life. My child. I felt a fierce wave of protectiveness wash over me. I would not let this child grow up tethered to a stake. I would not let them learn that love is transactional. I turned onto the highway ramp, merging into the flow of traffic. The city lights blurred past, streaks of red and white. I wasn't just driving away from a bad dinner. I was driving away from a lifetime of conditioning. The realization was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. The stake was gone. The rope was broken. And for the first time, I was truly completely free to go wherever I wanted. I reached for my phone and dialed the one number I knew would answer. And Cynthia, she picked up on the second ring.
Kelsey, is
Everything okay? No, I said, my voice
steady.
Everything is over and everything is just beginning. Christmas morning at Aunt Cynthia's house was quiet. It smelled like cinnamon rolls and old coffee, a stark contrast to the performative opulence of my father's estate. There were no piles of designer gifts under the tree, no catering staff moving silently in the background, just Cynthia in her flannel robe pouring me a mug of tea and the soft hum of the heater. It would have been peaceful, except my phone had been vibrating against the kitchen counter for 3 hours. I didn't turn it off. I wanted a record. I wanted to see the exact moment the consequences made contact with their reality. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the voicemail notification chimed.
It was
Richard. I put it on speaker so Cynthia
could hear.
Kelsey, you ungrateful little thief. I just got an alert from the bank. The trust account is locked. Who do you think you are? That is my money. If you don't unlock it in 5 minutes, I am calling the police. I will have you arrested for embezzlement. You think you can walk out of here and sabotage this family? You are nothing without me. Fix this. His voice cracked. At the end, it wasn't the roar of a lion. It was the squeal of a cornered
rat.
Cynthia looked at me, her eyes
wide.
He's going to call the police.
No,
I said calmly, taking a sip of tea.
he
Knows he can't. If he calls the police, they will ask for the financial records. And if they see the records, he goes to prison for fraud. He's bluffing.
he's
Terrified. A second later, a text came through from Tiffany. She was supposed to be checking into a ski resort in Aspen this morning. A trip she booked on the family credit card, the one I paid off every month. Card declined.
Are you
Kidding me? I'm standing at the front desk with my friends. This is humiliating.
fix it now?
Dad says, you
Did something to the accounts.
You are ruining my Christmas. You are so selfish. I looked at the messages, the threats, the insults, the demands.
4
Years, these tantrums would have sent me into a panic mode. I would have scrambled to transfer funds, to apologize, to smooth things over just to keep the peace. But today, looking at the screen, I didn't feel panic. I felt like a scientist observing a specimen under a microscope. Why does he hate you so much? Cynthia asked quietly. You're the only one who helped him. You saved him. Why did he throw you away? I looked at my aunt because I know the math.
I
Realized then what had actually happened. At dinner, it wasn't about the baby.
it
Wasn't about the image. It was about insecurity. My father has spent his entire life wearing a mask. The mask of the brilliant businessman, the wealthy patriarch, the success story. Everyone buys it. Tiffany buys it. The neighbors buy it, but I don't buy it. I see the ledger. I see the debt. I see the bad decisions and the stolen money. I am the mirror that reflects his failure. Every time he looks at me, he sees the daughter who had to bail him out.
he
Sees the competence he lacks. My success makes him feel small. My stability makes him feel chaotic.
He didn't disown me.
Because I was a disappointment.
He
Disowned me because I was the witness to his fraud. He had to cut me out to protect his ego. He prefers the fantasy of being rich and wronged over the reality of being bankrupt and rescued. He's an empty suit, I said, setting the phone down, and he just realized I took the hanger. I stood up and walked to the window. The snow was falling harder now. He threatened to sue me for theft.
I
Said, let him try, as I have one more gift for him, and he's going to open it today. Cynthia sat across from me at the kitchen table, watching as I organized the stack of documents I had brought in my overnight bag. She looked terrified, not for herself, but for me. She still saw Richard as the Titan, the man who could crush anyone who crossed him. She didn't realize that the Titan was standing on trapdoors I had installed 3 years ago. Kelsey, she said softly, tracing the rim of her mug. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but be careful. Richard has powerful friends. He talks about his angel investor all the time, the private equity group that bought his debt when the bank tried to foreclose in 2020. He says they love him. He says they gave him an unlimited timeline if he calls them. I stopped shuffling the papers.
A
Small cold smile touched my lips. You can't call them Cynthia because they don't exist. She frowned. What do you mean? He showed me the letterhead. Meridian Capital. They saved the estate. I saved the estate. I said, Meridian Capital is a shell LLC. I registered it in Delaware 3 years ago. I am the sole managing member. I am the board of directors. I am the angel investor. Cynthia went silent. Her eyes darted from my face to the laptop, trying to process the magnitude of the lie. When the bank moved to foreclose, I said, evenly, Dad refused help from his daughter. His pride wouldn't allow it. So I gave him a story he could accept, a prestigious firm that believed in his potential. He signed the loan without reading it, too busy admiring himself. I slid the loan agreement across the table and pointed to the guarantor clause. Cynthia read it, then froze. He didn't just disown me, I said. He triggered an immediate default, kicking me out, legally evicted himself. The box, she whispered. A notice of acceleration. Full repayment in 48 hours. I leaned back. I hadn't tricked him. I had relied on his narcissism, his certainty that I wasn't worth reading carefully. He thought this was a family fight. It was a foreclosure. That night, New Year's Eve, he came to my door, desperate, exposed. You own the house, he said, harshly. I own the debt, I corrected. You own the consequences. He accused me of betrayal. I reminded him I'd saved him from bankruptcy and he'd repaid me by cutting me out of the will. When anger failed, he tried sentiment. He invoked my pregnancy. No, I said, you don't get to use my child to refinance your failures. I handed him a folder. This is not a negotiation. It's an exit. Inside was a fully paid condo in Florida and a monthly stipend on one condition. He signs over the estate, releases all claims, and agrees to permanent no contact. You're exiling me, he said. I'm offering you dignity instead of public eviction. He signed. The house became mine. I didn't preserve it. I transformed it. I cleared out the weight of his legacy, repainted the rooms, and turned his study into a nursery. I wasn't erasing the past. I was correcting it. On New Year's Day, I hosted dinner for the people who mattered. No ceremony, no hierarchy, just warmth, laughter, and a table I built myself. I finally understood the victory isn't earning a seat at a table that despises you. It's building your own and choosing who gets to sit. This wasn't just a house anymore.
Who is A?
Home?